But the device itself cost $3,500, and we were a very small company trying to break into a market that was, dominated largely by, big tech companies. So that product, as great as it was not commercially successful. So, but in the meantime, in the intervening years, we were working hard on a second version of Magic Leap, the Magic Leap headset. And then Magic Leap 2 came out in 2022, but there was a big shift in emphasis from entertainment to enterprise, meaning we were targeting automotive users, building and architecture, medical, very industrial use cases where we thought there would be a product market fit for uses of augmented reality technology and platform, as well and companies that wouldn't mind paying $3,500, right, for something that would make their workforce that much better. That was also a tough sell. We've done much better with that, and we're still selling Magic Leap 2 today. Not in the numbers that we had hoped, but it's been I would call it a successful product. It's the best product in its category. It's the best optical see-through device that allows you to continue to see the world around you, and also have digital content overlaid. But we've also started moving into what I'll call chapter 3, and that's building partnerships with larger companies to leverage our AR tech leadership. And so we are starting to have partnerships where we'll build optical systems and be able to manufacture the waveguides that are the engines that put light into your eye, that create the digital content in the real world. So that's there's been a couple of those signed. We're also partnered with Google. That's publicly announced, so I can say that. So we're helping Google build their what's called Android XR, their software platform for many companies to build AR devices on an Android-based OS. So I should talk a little bit more deeply about what is XR. We could talk about that alone for an hour, but I'll just kind of give you my vision of what extended reality means from one end of the spectrum to the other. And you're probably familiar with a lot of this, but it's kind of handy to look at XR as a spectrum of device types and use cases. So if you look at the left side of this, no display, this is 0-degree field of view, audio only. You have a really lightweight, low compute kind of glasses that really look not very different than this that I'm wearing. And the example that's on market right now, the biggest example on market right now is the Meta Ray-Bans. And so the first version of Meta Ray-Bans were audio only. You could take photos with them, you can take videos with them, you can get a little bit of information from them. They're tethered to your phone, wirelessly tethered to your phone, and they're great, and they've sold really well. I think Meta is like ramped up their production to something like 20 million devices this year, which is a big number. They've also come out with a second version that has a small single lens optical interface where you can see like text notifications and things like that with one eye. And I think those are also doing well. Those are a bit more expensive, but still within the realm of like something that a consumer would want to wear. I was with a friend on Sunday morning, and he was showing me all these pictures on his phone from a concert he'd been to the night before. And he's like, oh yeah, I took all of these with my Metas, right? So I was like, yeah, that's a perfect use case. You're at a concert and you want to take photos, but you don't need to hold up your phone because you've just got glasses on your face. So from there, you move up to, as I talked about, single lens monocular glasses. Next generation of that, and Meta has announced something like this, I think they call Horizon, which are binocular glasses. So you have optical engines in two eyes, giving you more immersive digital content that overlays into the real world. And those are coming to market maybe next year. Of course, I can tell you that it's no secret that both Apple and Google are working hard, and many other companies and many other large tech companies are working hard to bring to market similar glasses. Right now, the sentiment in the industry is that for most people, most of the time, a very lightweight glasses that afford you connectivity to your phone, almost like you have a watch as a peripheral, you can use glasses as a peripheral, and that gives you a lot of ability to get information really quickly, hands-free. And you know, you can imagine, like, you know, trying to get an Uber in an airport, and you have to find out where to go to get the Uber. Well, if that information was just given to you in your glasses, it would be much handier than trying to dig your phone out of your pocket while you're pulling luggage and wrangling your backpack and holding your water bottle. So there are a lot of instances where I see these would be a really cool thing to have, and they will be on market soon. Kind of, we jump all the way over to the other end, because this is the other category of things that are already out in the world. The two things on the far right are the Apple Vision Pro, which has been out for, I guess, a year and a half now. And to the right of that is the Samsung Galaxy XR, which is only a couple months old. Those are much more immersive, much heavier. If you've ever put one on your head, you can go to the Apple Store and demo the Apple Vision Pro, which is pretty cool. Those give you a lot of cool stuff. You can get, you know, immersive video. You can have photos that feel like they're 3D. They do a lot. The compute is right on the headset rather than coming from your phone, which is as well as the battery. So that's why they weigh so much and are so big and look like big ski goggles. And also, they don't have true optical see-through. Those are video see-through headsets, meaning that your eyes are seeing the real world through video cameras. And so there is, when you wear these, there is kind of a perceptible lag. If you move your head quickly, that the world isn't really the world. You're actually seeing a video feed of the world, and then digital content is being overlaid on that. So we think of those as being sort of episodic use devices, where you put them on because you want to watch a movie, or you put them on because you want to play a game, or maybe do a video call, an immersive video call with somebody. But it's something that you're going to wear for maybe an hour, maybe on the long side, because they are heavy and hot, and they do heat up. So, you know, if you look at the left, that's like all day, everyday wear. Just, you can have them on your face, and you get some small connection to the digital world. The other side is sort of like occasional wear for a period of time. To the left of that is a sort of middle ground of optical see-through glasses, and the one to the one under the 80-degree thing is actually the Magic Leap 2. And because that's a true see-through device, it's like putting a large pair of glasses on your head, and you're looking through lenses and seeing the real world. And if the device is off, you're just seeing the world. If the device is on and you're seeing something, then you can have pretty immersive and pretty stunning digital visual content. But again, it's a little heavy. You're tethered to a puck. You do feel heat because there's a lot of compute going on, and so those are, again, slightly more episodic. And then just to the left of that is the unreleased but coming out this year is an X-Real Aura, which is actually quite similar to Magic Leap, and that's but quite a bit lighter weight. Again, tethered to a puck, but you can also unplug it and plug it into a laptop and kind of use it as an extension of your screens. So I have friends who use the previous version of X-Real basically as a mobile large monitor, so that they can work on a laptop in a coffee shop but have like a 32-inch monitor in front of them, virtual monitor. Those are pretty interesting as well, because I think those will have a nice fit in the marketplace for a number of use cases. And then there's this untapped area in the middle between 40 degrees and 70 degrees, and that's where probably ultimately the sweet spot is, where you kind of converge on these heavier, more compute-intensive devices and the lighter weight glasses that don't have as much compute, but we want to get them to a place where you can have a lightweight, easy to use form factor that feels comfortable but has a lot of immersive content a lot of compute capabilities, and but those are probably 5 to 10 years down the line. I'll stop there. If you guys want to ask any questions about these particular things, I'm happy to answer now.
Yeah, of course. I mean, hearing from your experience, you said Trader Joe's to working with really huge clunky headsets, and now the diverse market of these actual headsets, it's quite fascinating. So I'm sure we have a couple of questions. Who would like to start?
I guess I can. Have you used any of your film production knowledge in the AR world or VR world?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I very much so. I was specifically hired at Magic Leap because the work I had done in visual effects was largely about building virtual humans and digital doubles. That was like one main area of responsibility that I had at the company. So as well as virtual environments. So both those things had tremendous applicability to making augmented reality experiences. So it's like anytime, for example, anytime you would see in a Spider-Man movie, Tom Holland swinging through the streets of Manhattan, there's a good likelihood that I had spent a lot of time on those streets in Manhattan taking reference photos and video and doing light probes to get the lighting and to get reference for the lighting environment of what the streets look like at night in New York City, as well as doing a ton of very carefully staged reference photography of Tom and 3D scanning of him, video range of motion reference. So we build up all of this body of data so that we can then in post-production, and we do that while the production is going on. So people like me or people that I work with would be on set gathering all this data. In fact, there's a job in the visual effects world called VFX data wrangler, and that is simply the person who's responsible on set every day for recording all the details and getting all the photographic reference that are going to be used 6 months later to build the digital extensions and the digital characters that are going to go into those scenes. So at Magic Leap, I was specifically came in to build, and I've got a few more slides, so this is a good segue. Maybe we'll jump ahead after this question. So I was specifically brought into Magic Leap to work on a project called Micah, and that was a photoreal human, which I talked about in my introduction, that we built experiences around that toured to festivals for about a year and a half or 2 years, like Sundance Festival, South by Southwest, Game Developers Conference, a bunch of others like that. And in general, there were a number of iterations of this, but in general, a user would put on a Magic Leap headset and walk into a room that was staged with furniture and a table and various props, and there would be a virtual human sitting in that room waiting for them. And you go into this room and have a one-on-one interaction with her. It's a very uncanny but super cool experience. So yeah, that was the translation from film to extended reality work. Maybe if I jump ahead, I think the next slide is actually about Micah. So yeah, so I'll go forward and I'll take another break for another question. But so what do we make, or what do I make specifically? These are kind of like the sort of 4 main spotlight applications that I worked on over the years. First is Micah, which I was just talking about. Then there was an application called Magic Leap Assist, an application called Magic Leap Workshop, and Magic Leap Spectator. The last 3 are all still publicly available, and we have a user base that on Magic Leap 2 that are using these on a regular basis. But let's stick with Micah for a second. And I have a video. It's sort of poor quality because this was done a few years ago, but this is from the Game Developers Conference in San Francisco. This is just a recording of a person walking into the room. I'll go ahead and play it. Oh, I'm pushing the wrong screen there.
All good.
So this woman has walked into this room, and Micah's sitting there waiting for her. And this is all captured in camera in real time. So we're seeing from the camera's point of view exactly what this woman is seeing. And she's looking at Micah. I'm going to tell you, it's a really trippy experience to sit there with something that seems almost real, but not quite. And then she's asking this participant to do some things. And you realize she wants you to make a collage with her on this empty frame on the wall. So there's a real frame, real table, real chairs, and you build this collage together. And then at the end, you get collage, collaboration. So you've actually interacted with this character and built something together. So a digital human and a real human working together to make this thing. The other kind of cool thing we did with that, I'll just play it again while I'm talking, was we got everybody's email address when they signed up to do this. And afterwards, they would get an email from Micah with the picture, with the collage that they had created together. So, and every collage was unique. We used, this was pre-AI explosion, but we used sort of limited AI, I would say, for her body engagement and how she interacts with people. For example, if you sit down and stare at her too long, she'll look away. So we build in this notion of a social gaze and social comfort, so that she would break eye contact. And it's actually a very sophisticated visual system for her eye tracking and how she engages with the human. And that's all driven by a limited amount of AI. If we were doing this, if I'd started working on this last year or the year before, Micah would be able to talk to you. And I kind of feel a little like regretful that I wish we had kept that project going, because now I could have a speaking human that we could interact with. Any questions you want to follow up with on that?
Yeah, I must say that video was incredibly uncanny, but it's fascinating to see how you replicated real human behavior in like a digital environment that was visualized through a headset. I mean, that's quite the feat. I was curious about I suppose the social aspect of it. I mean, if you could do that with another person, or animated person with like their own physics and such, how could you revolutionize other media? Like, say for instance, holding conferences with businesses, or even like YouTube videos, or really more media just beyond like films and such. I mean, it seems quite diverse. Like, you could do a lot with having that sort of technology implemented.
Yeah, that's actually that's a fantastic question, and I think we're probably at the tip of the iceberg of having a lot of interactions with digital entities of different kinds. I mean, we're already doing it, right? We talk to ChatGPT as though we're talking to somebody, or at least I sometimes do. I ask it questions like, and I want it to be like, challenging to me. And if I'm trying to learn something new, I kind of set the guardrails where, like, you're not just going to be my friend, but you're going to be like an equal intellectual partner who is going to ask me hard questions and not just tell me I'm really smart, right? So you kind of have to coach it to be the kind of partner you want. But I mean, imagine, I think where we get into the realm of stuff that could be super interesting, but also a little bit scary, would be, embodied AI agents. I mean, this is sort of where, okay, I feel a little mixed about this. Like, if Micah was photoreal and I could see her, or another one, call it Frank, a male version of Micah, then I could see that photoreal human with lightweight glasses, and it could talk to me using large language models. That's amazing and also terrifying. And I'll be completely honest about that.
Yeah, it would practically be the real thing. You would never be able to tell the difference. It's frightening. It sounds like a gray area, but that's incredible.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I think, in terms of you mentioned the international conferences, or so my workforce, and I've got something else to show that this is a good lead into, but my team is completely remote since COVID, right? We have our headquarters in Florida. Magic Leap has offices in Zurich, a very small office in Belgium, which is part of my team, Austin, Boulder, Sunnyvale, California, Los Angeles. We used to have an office in Tokyo. And so I'm very used to working with a completely distributed, and since the pandemic, everybody I've hired has been fully remote. So we spend most of our time like this, talking through screens, but I kind of hate doing video calls because they are two-dimensional and are artificial. And there are ways of doing calls that are more immersive and feel more real. And one of the applications that we built, it's called Workshop, and that was a collaboration tool to allow people to interact together and collaborate over digital content. But also you can do that in a co-located situation where you're standing in a room together and you're all around a table and you're all seeing virtual content in the same place at the same time, and you can manipulate it and hand things to each other. And so for collaborating on like design projects or 3D models of automobiles or things like that, it's super powerful. But I also used it almost every day just to talk to my colleagues because it felt like a more engaging experience than a video call. And the interesting thing about that was we did not try to do photoreal avatars for that, because Mica costs, I don't know, $1 million, let's say, all told, in terms of development costs. And we used she was based on a real human. We went through an elaborate scan, 3D scanning, 3D motion capture, volumetric capture. We got all the data we possibly could, and then spent like 2 years doing that, building that out in Unreal. So you can't do that for every human. I mean, we're getting closer to being able to do that faster and more cheaply, but I still think photoreal avatars are a little bit off-putting. So our decision with Workshop was to go with a completely stylized avatar, but have really, really good gaze interaction and really good mouth tracking. So speech to mouth tracking. And it's weird that even though you're looking at a generic avatar, it felt more engaging than looking at I felt it was more engaging than looking at somebody's face on a 2D screen. So maybe I'll play that video. I think it's,
Yeah.
next one.
I actually wanted to ask a question first.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, please.
What was that?
Question from Mr. Suarez. Is it similar to the technology that's used on the Vision Pro when it comes to Gaussian splatting and in regards to in creation of 3D avatars of humans?
Yeah. Yes. Exactly that. So right. The way the avatars are made for both the Apple Vision Pro and the Samsung Galaxy XR is exactly that. You take a series of photos of yourself if you ever run through the process, and then goes off to the cloud, and that creates a 3D representation of you with a rig that can be driven by your facial feet, the perception stack on the device later.
Thank you.
Fascinating.
Yeah,
Thank you.
you're welcome. Was there another question?
I know that you're more focused on the making human models, but what could the augmented reality mean for fields of work like architecture and engineering, and like furthering it and incorporating AI into that as well?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and that is a huge area, and I think it's an area that's it's actually one of the places, what I would call one of the early adopters of AR is architectural visualization and what is it? ARC? AAE. I forget the acronym, but it means like architecture, building, and engineering, something like that. There's an acronym for that whole industry, and there are a lot of software programs that allow developers and engineers and architects, say, to walk through a partially built building and put on a headset and see a very accurate visualization of like where all the ductwork will be, where all the electrical networking and networking cables need to go, And it's interesting. I've talked to people who have gone to job sites before and put on a headset, sometimes magically, but there's actually a lot of other very smaller players that serve that industry very directly, with bespoke headsets for architecture and build, and they discover problems right before they've actually done any more building. They're like, oh wow, that window is in the wrong place because we need to run a duct right through there. And so they can catch things like that at a much earlier stage. And I think we do talk about, actually, you brought up AI as well. We have talked about sort of having a digital twin. The name in the industry for that kind of work, and big box stores are doing the same thing for inventory control and inventory layout. So they like a Target is, or not Target, Lowe's has basically built a digital twin of every store they have. So they know exactly, and they have a headquarters where they are able to look at the layout of the store virtually and see what aisles are doing well and what aisles are not doing well in terms of sales, and where they should move items, and then they can send that information to employees on the floor. We were doing a long-term study with them where they had people on the floor using Magic Leap 2 devices, and they were able to scan the room and sort of say, okay, you need more boxes up here, sinks, because those sinks have been selling really well. So that kind of thing is super cool. Architecture, we've also talked about walking through buildings with a headset and using AI to basically multimodally understand that building. And then one of the specific use cases for that would be to check for compliance, safety code and building code compliance. And the AI theoretically would be much more capable of doing that than a human, just by walking through a building with an AI assisted augmented reality device on your head.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I'd be right to assume that a large part of it as well is for like visualizing parts that you create that could also be used in engineering.
Yeah. So, again, because of their scale, I know that companies like Mercedes and Audi and Toyota are doing a lot of work with augmented reality headsets, both in a kind of flashy way for demos for the future of driving, where they say, oh, you're going to sit in a car and you're going to be wearing glasses that are going to be giving you all this information about your driving, which is probably maybe true. But in the real world right now, they're using them much more for looking at models of cars, visualizing them at super high fidelity, especially if you bring in something called remote rendering, where the rendering is happening not on the headset, but from a high-powered computer, and then is streaming the pixels to the headset. You can get super, super high fidelity rendered visions of a vehicle that is, maybe a couple of years away from realization. But you can walk, you executives can walk around it in a room and it feels like there's a real car there, and they can, make decisions about that car well in advance. The traditional way of doing that was with clay models. So, and they still use clay models, which is, I think, really cool, because I'm a tactile, hands-on person who likes to make things. But then they'll scan those clay models and skin them, and add color and lighting and detail, and use that in a headset as a much more accurate way of representing the future state of what that car would be. So yeah, another industry where I think it's just going to become a common part of the workflow in developing new products.
Fascinating. Thank you.
The next video I'm going to show is for a application called Workshop, and this is not the full video, so I'm not going to play audio. I'll just kind of talk over it. But this was what I'm going to show you was a collaboration we did, a case study really, with a company called Hush in New York City that builds large scale elements of big building projects. So what I mean is maybe like large sculptures or video installations that will be permanent parts of buildings. And so this was a collaboration with Hush and Magic Leap and the architectural company building a new medical center in East Brunswick, New Jersey. And they were using Magic Leap to pre-visualize the stuff they were going to build, and they could look at it at tabletop scale, which you'll see, but also look at it at full scale. We went into a warehouse and they were able to show the president of the building company, what it would look like at scale. And it was like mind blowing to him because he said, if I played you the full video with sound, we do interviews and stuff. And he says, I came in here this morning with a lot of doubts and I'm walking out of here thinking that 98% of what I saw we're going to build. So it like gave him confidence that what they were proposing, showing him initially on paper and then in design renderings on a screen, but then seeing it in 3D in the world was what sold him on the concept. So this just shows you some of the ways it was being used by this team. And this is just in their office where they're kind of iterating on some of the scope, basically they were using an arch concept that was going to unify the entire campus and would run inside and outside of buildings. And then these digital screens that would come down walls and onto the floor that people could walk across as they entered lobbies that would be feeding information of, biotech information on a regular loop. And so you can see they have the ability to pull the models onto a tabletop, arrange them, move them, and then this is the walkthrough. That's the guy who is the president of the developer, and he's walking through this at scale. And he was just like, his mind was blown.
I can certainly imagine. He looks fascinated himself.
Yeah, so that was that again is an application. That's the one I also mentioned that I didn't show any that had the avatars in, but that's the tool that I use with my team almost every day just to meet. And because we're also building 3D things, we could either, if we happen to be in an office together, we could look at the 3D content we were building together, and we could also do it remotely. So you could, I would stand in my office a couple times a day with like 5 avatars around me, and we would review the work we were building together in like 3 different countries. So it's great for that. And I know there are teams that are still using this today, so which is gratifying. More questions?
I'm just impressed by how easy it makes collaboration on huge projects and like with construction or product development. I mean, it sounds like it really revolutionizes, especially like a general workforce, or it extends the realm of possibility where you can make practically anything. One of the questions I actually had is how integrated is? It's actually one of 2 questions more. How integrated is AI into this process of like developing it, or other like certain functions it has?
Yeah, again, excellent question. We are at the very beginning of that. And I say that sincerely. I was in a workshop in San Francisco last week, a 3-day workshop on a particular product and project, and we spent 1 full day talking about AI and how each of us was using it in our workflows. And it's fascinating because it was a room full of about 20 or 25, software engineers. Some of them had been, were pretty new, and some of them had been doing this for 30 years. And the range of receptiveness to AI was interesting to see, because you had like really deeply experienced and deeply talented people who were like, it's useless. I'm never going to touch it. It won't do anything for me. To others who said, I've spent the last 2 months doing nothing but coding using AI. And so we actually did a really cool exercise where we were given one of the guys had started a really simple game, and the task was for each would to kind of pair up. So we each pair programmed and build a game level using the built-in AI tools that we're starting to have in our software development tools. And at the end of it, the guy who was most like opposed to using AI was like, that was really cool. I'm going to use that. And so I think, but honestly, like right now, and I had this conversation yesterday, look, we don't have any best practices for how to use the tools. You have Microsoft Copilot for coding. You have Claude Code, is that what they call it? There's Google's Anti-Gravity is a coding assistant that's been released. They have an internal version of it with a slightly different name, but same thing. But one guy had came up with this whole thing. One of my close colleagues said that he realized that working with the AI, he had to. I'll give you two more examples of how people are using it in software development specifically. One guy said, I have to develop, I co-develop with the AI what we're calling functional blueprints. And he's like, I had never heard the term functional blueprint. So I looked it up. I couldn't find, like, what does this mean in software development? I've been a developer for 25 years. And then I asked the AI, well, what does this functional blueprint mean? Where does this term come from? And then the AI said, well, Matt, you came up with that term, which he did not think he had. But essentially, a functional blueprint was like the guidelines for what the AI would do with how it would code. And so they would basically, it's almost like a product requirements document or some kind of plan in advance of generating code. So that's one way of working, and I would call that like a kind of best practice, like for this week. Next week it might be different because the tools are changing so quickly. That's what I mean when I say we're all figuring it out in real time. The other thing that I've been talking this week about is using sub-agents. So you have an agent who's sort of like, you could, I'll give them names, like make one agent that's your product manager that's writing a requirements document. And then that gets handed off to, let's say, a production manager who kind of talks back and forth with the product manager agent about what is the practicality of building it like this. And then you'll have another agent that then implements code from that. And then you can build an agent that's your QA person and testing. And then there's back and forth between the coding agent and the QA agent. And meanwhile, this guy has walked away literally and gone to the gym and is letting the agents run while he's working out. So it's weird, and like it's actually happening in real time. It's the things are changing so quickly.
Chris, I have a question real fast.
Yeah.
Just on that topic alone, it feels like the Jetsons. But here, if you remember the Jetsons, with my young guys right here that we're here, and then the kids who are watching online, not to get off topic, but just to, since we're here, and there seems to become seniors, what areas of technology would you recommend they still go into with the advances that we see that Opus and Claude and all of them doing? Should they just surrender, or what can we as humans play a part in that role of controlling these AIs?
Yeah, that's a enormous question. My initial reaction is to say I have no idea, but that's not a good answer. By the way, I don't think we should surrender. I do think that there will always be a role for humans have to somehow be in the loop, I think, because the AI goes off the rails pretty easily. And this is why I mentioned specifically, like, the more constraints you put on the AI, the better the results you get. So the example of my friend who came up with the functional blueprints, he doesn't know how he came up with that concept, but it seems to be working because that gives the AI a very clear set of guidelines of what it should be doing. Building sub-agents that do a very limited thing, or that do a very limited thing is also a really good practice. And it's humans. We know what we want to get to. I don't think the AI, where I don't think the AI is great, is being able to come up with ideas about what we need, what we want to build, what's important. So I don't think, there's a lot of talk about how AI is changing the world of software engineers, and indeed it is. But I'm not seeing a lack of need for software engineers. We need software engineers who know how to use AI to do the work that we're doing, and that's the state today. I cannot see 10 years into the future. Also, there's always a place for super curious, super interested, smart people. Like my background is super unconventional. Like I have an undergraduate degree in philosophy and a master's degree in English and comparative literature, and I've worked for almost 30 years in technology at the intersection. I think of it as the intersection of technology and art, or technology and creativity. But I just am interested in everything, and that is probably the single most important attribute you can bring to any job you get, is curiosity. Like, and not just focus on like, oh, this is what I'm supposed to be doing, but like, I'm curious about everything, like the entire picture. I'm not a finance guy, I'm not a sales guy, and I kind of really want to not care about that stuff, but I've ended up getting involved in thinking about those things and caring about them because I've had to, and also I have enough curiosity that I can apply my brain to it.
I have one more question. I mean, I'm coming from the VFX, I'm coming from the film, and you're coming from the VFX background. The way we've worked with AI, or with that type of technology, to create creative new things, like you made Spider-Man and Polar Express, those type of things. What can we take from that collaborative working with AI and to help the rest of the world? Because in a way, like we've got like a sneak peek of how to work with it, but now the world is now trying to learn, but we kind of mastered it in a way. If you catch what I'm saying, what can we give to those other industries that are now learning how to work with it?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things, and I'll raise my hand as not being, I'm guilty of not spending enough time practicing or trying different AIs. I think just experimentation and making new things and building as much as you can, and then sharing that with other people. One of my close colleagues he's like our AI evangelist. Every meeting I'm in with him, he lives actually like right by you guys, and he's like every day he's like, oh, you know what I did last night? And he's building like a business, like an entire business model, and he's entirely doing it with Claude and some other tools. And it might well be like a real business that launches to help and he's specifically building a bunch of AI tools that would help other people build businesses. So I think that's an actually interesting thing, because he's trying to build something that enables others to use the tools in a more easy fashion for a specific purpose. So like, if you want to start a small business, like you could use the tools that he's developing, the small little web-based company that he's building. That would be I think if I was like didn't know a ton about business and had an idea to build something in South Florida, like using what he's building would be super powerful. So doing things like that, I think, is a way of like opening it up to others, and which I think is a little bit about what you were getting at. And then in terms of generative AI and video production, I've seen a few films that were entirely AI generated. They're semi-successful, I would say. visually it's going to keep getting better and better and better, but it still, to me, comes down to like what's the human element in it and what is the idea. So if you don't have a good idea and you don't have something that feels human and real and that people that connects with people, kind of doesn't matter what it looks like. I mean, I've worked on $100 million movies that looked amazing that were terrible because the idea was bad, So, yeah.
One of my students asked me, the lizard in Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
How'd you make them? That's what they asked me. Mr. Royce, ask him, how'd you make the lizard in Suicide Squad?
Oh, great question. So, I can't remember his name. The actor who played that character, funniest guy. I mean, oh, what was his name? Shoot. Really, really funny guy. I mean, he was always like singing and on set, and he had like weights because he was always wanted to be pumped up, but he was playing the character, and we were capturing it on film, but then it became obviously a CG character in post-production. So, again, we did full photographic capture of him, 3D body scans, video range of motion, and then we had all the reference of him acting on screen, and then you kind of take that performance of the real character and build the CG character. A lot of times, this is an interesting thing for you guys, but when there's a character that's going to be largely throughout the whole film be largely like computer generated, but you want to capture within that computer generated character what the human actor is giving to the role, we will usually have the animation director for post-production on set every day, and he or she is working with that actor, and we'll have like extra cameras getting video reference, because we want to be able to take the performance that the human has given and get that into the animated CG character. And that's really like the job of the animation director, is to bring what the human is giving to that role and get it into generated version that we see on screen. And it's a super, super interesting, it's not a mathematical process. It's not a procedural process. It's really like a lot of experience as animators understand faces so well. It's crazy. Like, we all understand faces, but we do it kind of intuitively. But an animator understands it in a kind of rational, like methodical way. They think about it a lot, like how humans interact, what our faces do, what our mouths do, how our eyes work. It's a really, really cool area.
I suppose in a sort of way they become kind of like biologists in the sense of understanding how the human face works.
Yeah, and there's books like there's a famous book. I think it's from the mid-70s. I always forget what it's. Facial Action something system, and it's called FACS, and it's this researcher in the mid-70s described and photographed the human face in like 115 different expressions, which he said captured like those from those building blocks. Humans make every facial expression. And so like literally every video game, every motion picture, if you're doing a digital human in augmented reality, we put actors through what's called a FACS session. And you sit there and you make them go through, a couple dozen of these facial expressions, and you scan them, and you have all of those pieces, and then those are your building blocks for building the digital expressiveness, the digital rig that drives the expressions of the virtual character. So it's science and art. I mean, which is actually what I'm into.
That's fascinating. Thank you.
Yeah.
Sure.
Not to railroad the conversation back into AI, but one of the main questions I have had, and one of the big the big things about using AI in really any industry today, I'm sure everyone knows, is the sustainability of it. Given how integrated it is into the technologies you're working on and the processes that go into actually making it, how sustainable is it to keep going given how AI affects like the global economy and how RAM prices go up, silicone I think it is, things such as that. I know you're no economist, but I'm curious if this development could still continue or if it's going to plateau at some point before we need some kind of technological revolution to actually continue making more advancements.
Yeah, you're 100% right that it's incredibly resource intensive, and I actually think about that every time Gemini is giving me the top answer in my search bar, because I know that the compute behind that answer, and those answers are like every week better. Like, so I think it's amazing. I actually don't know. I think in terms of sustainability, like there's the raw physical resources that we're mining. I mean, weirdly enough, I was in Chile last October, and I was in the Atacama Desert, and it's like that. I didn't know this before I got there, but I was seeing all these huge salt flats, and I couldn't figure out why the airport was so crowded in the middle. Basically, you're in the middle of nowhere for 1,000 miles in every direction. And then I learned that 70% of the world's lithium comes from Chile and Bolivia, right up in this high altitude desert.
Wow.
We're gonna run out of that stuff. I don't know what the answer is, but and also just the electricity and water consumption that's required by these massive data centers. I don't know what that means. People talk about building data centers in space.
Mm-hmm. I heard that.
That feels like a tough problem to solve. I mean, I think we can solve any problem. It's just a question of money and will and the practicalities of like how do you get that data flowing back to the terrestrial humans or the terrestrial servers. But yeah, it's a serious issue, and I actually don't think anybody's taking it. I think that's a role for government, to be honest, to think hard about water usage and electrical usage. And I don't think our governments are doing a very good job of that right now. That's not intended to be a political comment. That's just
Of course,
an observation.
Thank you for your insight. It means a lot.
Sure.
Any other questions?
Not that I can think of.
And did you know? Do you want to tell them what you're planning on doing after high school? What are your plans after high school?
I was planning to go into some sort of engineering field, and I thought that it's really cool that these AR glasses are able to visualize all these, like augment all these things that are currently only virtual. And I think that it'd be really cool if it could like also kind of help with some CAD programs and be able for engineers to visualize parts and everything like that before, and not just for architecture. It's still architecture, of course. And I just think it's really cool in general.
That's great.
That's okay.
Is there a question that I
Oh no, that's it. Yeah. And what are your plans?
What I want to do after high school is I want to go to college to go become a structural engineer and possible architecture. But hearing about the augmented glasses and stuff, and like hearing about when I asked my question about how it can influence like engineering and construction and stuff, I never really thought about it, but it's having those glasses could be interesting for visual effects or visually seeing what you're designing and stuff, and then being able to kind of walk through the reality almost while designing it to like determine layouts or something, but also how you said it identifies problems before they occur and possible like I wonder if that could help for future like structural things, like it can analyze the structural integrity of buildings and stuff, but also so like show flaws in like designs and stuff.
Yeah, that's great. I think you're exactly right to be thinking like that. That's very, very powerful for those use cases.
So that's basically helping us here, helping the world to leave a 2D world to see things now in a three-dimensional world, very visually. Because all of us, we always are on a screen. We always see screen, screen, screen. But now a screen that's a three-dimensional representation of what we want. And for artists, engineers, architects, this is the world we live in, but we haven't been able to do that. And now this technology, what you guys are doing, I think it's great.
100%. Yeah, we've spent, well, we went from paper and foam core models to building 3D models on workstations and looking at 3D on a 2D screen, which is a pretty unsatisfying way to do it. Works. But yeah, being able to see 3D in the 3D world is the right way to do it.
Yeah.
Wrap it up. Yeah. Thank you for your time,
Thank you.
Mr. Herbert. We've appreciated all your answers to our questions and enlightening us more in the world of augmented reality. We cannot wait to see more of your work. I can't wait to see my first movie. Already booking my tickets. But anyway, Bobcats, thank you for your time. I hope you all enjoyed this. We all got plenty knowledge, insight, and yeah. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks
Bye,
very much.
Bobcats.
I've really enjoyed this. Mr.
Bye,
Suarez,
Bobcats.
thank you for the invitation.
You're welcome. I'll be happy to call you another time. Other questions.
All right, cool. All right.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye now.
None of you asked about Polar Express.
I did. I tried. I brought in Suicide Squad.
Yeah, but you didn't ask about Polar Express.
The only, the only fun thing about Polar Express was that awesome train scene where they drifted the freaking.
Oh my
See the
goodness,
drift?
yeah, they drift the train.
That was the coolest thing I've
That
ever
was,
seen.
yeah, seriously, dude,
That was
drifting a
actually the
train.
awesomest thing ever.
I wish they did that again. I gotta remake that movie or
Seriously.
something. Oof.
I still would have appreciated if one of you had asked something about it.
Sorry.
I didn't even know you wanted me to.
Dude, that's literally what I was talking about yesterday. I didn't
Really?
even know this is who you were interviewing. I just got invited.
Oh, dude, I told you about this. You're like, I have no clue what you're talking
Because you
about.
said NASA. I didn't know anything
I
about
didn't.
NASA.
I thought he said NASA to me last week, and I was like,
He probably did.
he said NASA to me, and I was like, huh? And it turned out to be this. I mean, very incredibly insightful. I
You're
enjoyed
staying, right?
Here?
You're staying?
me here.
Yeah, duh.
Oh, till the end of the period. Sure,
Yeah.
it's fine. Yeah, I'll see.
Are you? Are you guys?
I should probably go.
Yeah, I should probably hit up English. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Yeah, because you're so
I
bad.
don't really want to hit up space international history. It's not very fun.
Yeah, I can see where it's
really
coming
easy,
from.
but
I have English, and we're reading Hamlet, so I'm gonna be jumping into the middle of a lesson.
You're going to do awesome.
Really focus on the social sciences of the augmented reality. I mean, I'm like you guys seem to have more technological interests. Me personally, I like social studies, history, and stuff. I just find it interesting how people will interact with this future technology, like augmented reality, and like
I think it's cool how it like incorporates into meetings. It makes me think of Avengers, Tony Stark, and like him seeing like the 3D visuals of like the other people from across the galaxy.
yeah, I was yeah, exactly. That's how my mind was on the Star Wars scenes with the little holograms and like it's just fascinating. I can't wait to see more of that.
Yeah.
I wasn't stuck up on that yet. Sometimes
The Jesse really?
I don't want to do that.
That's the it's the opposite of the Flintstones, right? It's the family that are really like it's a future family. Yeah, it's fun. What'd you say?
Dad used to have us watch that in the morning.
Yeah, we used to watch like old cartoons. It's fascinating how we went from those.
Oh, ooh, my bad.
Oh, you're good.
Huh?
We're
I
related.
didn't know you two were related.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
my sister.
That's my brother. That's my older brother.
Yep.
I have a few questions if you guys don't mind, just
Yeah.
so I can have a better understanding.
For some,
I will start with there's some questions I don't know who asked what because I came here a little bit late.
that's sort of up?
So and I kind of like abbreviated a lot of it because it's hard to like write and like
that's
listen at
totally
the same
okay.
time. There was a lot of information to take in. So I guess we start with something along the lines of use your own production in XR, something like that. And he answered the main area of responsibility, main requirements. Ooh. Yeah, I there was a lot of like stuff I had to I have to rewatch and rewrite it down.
Of course.
But I guess the better question would be
And Mr. Wordy over here.
Wordy?
I didn't catch anything.
Huh? Oh, my bad. I'm sorry.
Oh, somebody asked, what does XR mean for fields of work?
Uh,
And he said early adapters of AR, a lot of software programs that allow accurate representation in architecture. That was like one of the first, like towards the beginning. Because this is
Good job, guys.
one of the earliest ones.
Good job.
Who asked that? I don't think.
How did you feel?
Sorry, continue. Restate your question one more time.
something along the lines of what does XR mean for fields of work? That might I don't think that's what for because that was way before you came in.
What's the question? I was listening to her.
Yeah, I'm just getting some stuff to write down. So it was after he said something along the lines of when he first said we're at the tip of the iceberg when it comes to like AI. And he was talking about Mike at this point, and he said XR
there.
he said XR means something.
Stop.
This is when he was talking about companies like Mercedes and Toyota. I think that was you. I'm not.
Marcus.
It might have. Okay, never mind.
I think you did ask that one.
Yeah, it seemed like he was talking about a lot. It was like a lot of convenience use cases. Like
Yeah, I'm just gonna say that to you.
Okay, yeah, it doesn't matter too much, I don't think. But yeah, he said
I'm still listening. I'm just grabbing my
no
paper.
worries. He said it was a lot of like convenience use cases, like especially for coding.
Yeah.
There was a lot of coding.
If you ask me, I think we're all doomed.